Welcome to a look at King of Fighters 11, the CD-based version running on the Sega Dreamcast. Now, what I've done is I've printed off a CD and covers from a user on Facebook called Dreamcast, who's gone about creating different artwork for various unreleased Sega Dreamcast games. Now, as you can see, it looks quite professional. Inside, you've got the spine card which you can print out, and the backing of the cover, also a CD, which I've only roughly done because I don't have a CD printer. But it looks alright. It's on a normal CDR. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you that this game actually running on a Dreamcast, because I've noticed that a lot of the videos on YouTube are just showing it running from a GDEMU or the Redream emulator for the PC. But this is actually on the actual retail console, no modifications involved or anything like that, just burnt as a CDI image. As you can see, we've got a normal Dreamcast boot up screen here. What happens after this point is you get your Sega copyright logo. With the team that was responsible for creating the CDI version of this, because before it was a GDI version, which was directly from the source. Now, this game was never released for Dreamcast. It came out in 2005 on the Atomisware arcade board, which is created in collaboration with Sega, Sammy, and SNK, which is based very much on the Dreamcast architecture. Some subtle differences, but mostly it is a Dreamcast in a box. And packaged up to run on cartridges for the arcade market. Right, okay, so we're going to get into the key differences between this and the CD-ROM version. And actually, this wasn't originally designed to run on a CD, so it is a bit slower than the performance you get running from a solid state. What's happened is someone's hacked it, so all the playable characters on the game are unlocked to begin with, and you've got, as you can see, it's absolutely loads to choose from here. So I'm going to go nearer the top and pick some of the characters from there. There's arrows either side of the screen now. I'm not too sure whether there's extra characters on the side or whatever, or whether it's just saying you can actually loop back on yourself. But let's pick some characters and see where we go from here. You pick 3 characters. One's your main character that you use, and then you have the 2 auxiliary characters, which you pick the order that they go in. Keep in mind that buttons, where it says A, B, X, or A, B, C, whatever there, they are different ordered on the Dreamcast, so you have to sort of know the buttons before going in to pick your orders, but not that it really matters in the grand scheme of things. So loads up. It is a 1:1 copy of the arcade version, as you'd expect. The loading screen here is actually quite long. I think it gets sort of about 30-35 seconds before it gets into the game itself. But as I said, on the solid state version, you wouldn't expect to have this sort of loading taking as long as this. Because it is designed for a cartridge rather than running from the GD-ROM drive. Naturally, performance is going to differ depending on your Dreamcast. They're 20 years old now, so the CD drives can be worn out, and CD media isn't as good as it used to be anyway, because it's quite niche. When you get into the game itself, refreshingly, you only really get a bit of slowdown from this beginning bit there, when you do your initial move. The rest of it seems to run nigh on full speed for me. And what's more is it's actually a real joy to play this game. It doesn't quite look to me as good as the retail King of Fighters games that came out on the Dreamcast at the time, to which there were 5 of them, I believe, that came out in the end in the US and Japanese market. It ended with King of Fighters 2002, which I think actually got a 2003 release on the Dreamcast. So this here being 2005, a couple of years after support ended from SNK for the Dreamcast. And it's really nice and smooth. I was getting quite along with the controls, to be honest. I know that it's a main gripe with the Dreamcast controller that a lot of hardened King of Fighters fans would have preferred different button mapping, or the control's not exactly ideal for it. But I'm doing absolutely fine with this. The arcade stick you can use for it as well. It's got VGA support, so if you want the highest picture quality you can get from your console, it will support it, which is quite refreshing. I played it on a HDMI cable, and the characters perhaps are not quite as good as the backdrops, bizarrely, but I think there might have been some sort of enhanced technique that was used when creating, porting the game over to the machine. I think that some sort of smoothing was used on the characters themselves. I could be wrong, but what you'd have to do is check out the Dreamcast Talk forums to find out a little bit more about the process that's gone into actually porting these games over to the machine itself. But this isn't the only game. There is another King of Fighters game, I think a Samurai Spirits game as well. There's a couple of racing games, 3D racing games, Faster Than Speed and I think Maximum Speed's the other one as well, which are based on Sega GT. So you've got those. Metal Slug 6 was the first game that was released, and I plan on doing a video of that running on the Dreamcast natively as well. Sadly, the performance of that one isn't as good as this one here, which is a shame, but if you have got a GDMU, which most people do nowadays, you'll find it will run absolutely flawlessly and it's absolutely perfect. I personally don't think that these Atomiswave games really show what the Dreamcast was capable of. I mean, a lot of retail games towards the end look far more impressive than, say, these games here, but it is nice to have an extension of the library itself with up to sort of 20 games that we wouldn't have had otherwise that are now playable in the home market, which is absolutely great. And this is what preservation is all about with the machine, and it's quite exciting to be in this sort of day and age where we were sort of relegated to unfinished, unreleased games that play pretty poorly, just as curios to these full-blown experiences which actually play quite nicely, and they don't seem out of place in the library for the console. That's already stuffed with beat-em-ups and action games and arcade ports, but these guys are really welcome. All of these are made possible by a user on Dreamcast Talk called Megavolt85. So make sure you head on over to Dreamcast Talk forums, and if you remember there, just thank that user for the time that he's put into porting all of these games across. I think Dolphin Blue is being ported, which is a fan requested one, and there are plenty of other games to go in the library of Atomisware titles. And the good thing is that this arcade machine was quite a small and niche library, very much an extension of the Dreamcast's hardware towards the end, when Sega were very much on their uppers and they needed to create a cost-effective means to still release games via the cabinet format. And it's brilliant to see the intuitive nature of what people can do now with reverse engineering things to run on systems that they shouldn't be running on to begin with. Sadly, it doesn't mean that we're going to get things like Naomi releases or anything like that, because actually that's an arcade machine that's further away from what the Dreamcast architecture is inside, under the hood of the box. But it's great, and I think if you can download a CDI version of it, play it on your Dreamcast. If you haven't got a GDMU, otherwise I would strongly recommend playing on the GDMU. So there you go. There's a little look at it running natively on the Dreamcast hardware, and you can decide for yourself whether you want to go down this route or go down the solid state route. Catch you next time. Bye.